Alright, the question on everybody's mind, is Krasue broken? Yes. Alright, that's the video. You can need to write that, right? No, alright, let's actually talk about it. Hello, I am LowTide. Welcome back to another video. I did one of these literally during the PTB, well, the end of the PTB. I did not expect it to do well, but it did. So here we are again. I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to do the same disclaimer, because they're just people. If you wish to disregard anything that I say, I am new to the game, so go ahead, by all means. That's a reason if you wish to. As well as, I can go ahead and tell you this. I haven't played Krasue in the live update. I know, how could I have an opinion? I've been paying attention to what everybody says, as well as I've also been looking at the main differences in between the PTB and the live. And that's where I think most of my focus is going to be, that and just overall design and comparing the design to other killers in the game, rather than focusing purely on gameplay, though there is an aspect of that I'm going to talk about. So, first things first, people are calling her broken and comparing her to even Nurse, who is the most broken in the game by design. There's nothing you can do to make Nurse really unless you rework her entirely, because she just avoids pallets, just being able to teleport. So, why is she up here? Well, of course, all the killers at this top tier sort of area of the game is due to mainly high mobility, map pressure because of that mobility, and then lethality in the sense of how quickly they can down a survivor and how quickly they can also then spread pressure and down another survivor. That tends to be the reason why they're here, as well as they either have a way to avoid or break the resources that the survivors have, such as pallets. And when we're talking avoiding, we're talking things like Ghoul, Nurse, and then obviously Krasue now. And then when we're talking about breaking, we could talk Billy, Singularity, and then Brain, Work, Blight. There we go. Anyways, she falls into this category for the concept of avoiding it all, which is the same reason why people say Nurse is broken. Now, she technically wasn't this way in the PTB. The difference is the tune-up that happened. I agree with most people, she doesn't really need like a gigantic nerf. It's really, she just got tuned too far up after the PTB to live. The numbers are just a little bit too far, and then some of the things they just didn't need to do. Such as, very quickly, the one that I think punishes the most in terms of skill expression is the concept of her having no obstructions when she initially starts her intestinal whip. That is the main one I think that took away a lot of skill expression on both sides, because now the power can be used at pretty much anywhere, and that was part of the thing that made it harder to. It took more skill to use, but it also made it easier for the survivor to have a way to counter it. And this is where we're getting into skill expression. The number one thing people want to have is overall expression in between the survivor and the killer and how they play. That's just not even most, that's every game. You want to have a concept of expression there, unless it's a PvE game. And then it's expression of how, how busted you are, and showing off how busted the loot gets the further you get in the game. But in a case like this, overall, it feels like Krasue doesn't have any of the weaknesses that she did during the PTB, or any weaknesses at all, and it's partly true. A lot of the problems she had, or things that she had weak about her, that if they kept mainly it around the way it was, she wasn't good, her head form was not good at really small loops, and personally I like this. And then also, obviously we have the differences in times, as well as it was easier to get rid of the infection to some degree, just because of the amount of mushrooms that they could be. Now, I was even an advocate for the concept of it being a little lower. I think it's fine just about in the 4 area. The maximum changing, I think, is we could talk about it. I don't know if it's a big deal. There obviously needs to be something done to the infection, but let's focus on skill expression real quick. So, with her now being being able to use headlong flight and the intestinal whip at small loops, what's the point in using her other form? When we talk about a killer having design-wise multiple forms or multiple powers, so Vecna and Dracula, you immediately come to a situation where they have to be managed efficiently. If you're talking good Draculas or good Vecnas, the situation is that they're usually good at managing these forms. You don't have to be good at this with Krasue in the current version. Right now, you just can use headlong flight. As long as you use the body form to regurgitate, that's it. At least the concept, at least my brain thinking of it, in the PTB, I split the two into the way that you would handle them is the body form wasn't just for regurgitate. It's usually for regurgitate in the first hit, but it is also really good at small loops, just because you're an M1 killer and you have the benefits of an M1 killer at a small loop. And then her her head form had the benefits of open area, and then these really long loops, being able to either block them off before you get there, sort of like Wraith, you know, just floating it all the way there real quick. And then also, of course, like playing into the notion of vaulting with like bamboozle built in, or the notion of it being like, you know, Chucky Scamper to some degree. Personally, just it's the way that they overtuned it. Getting the speed right is, I think, everything. This is the problem anytime something new happens. I don't think I think she'll be reeled in just a little bit, but I can understand why people are sort of, you know, pessimistic with that sort of line of thought when it comes down to the history with everything going on in the game. I've been paying attention to the game for like, what, since 2020? Before I even like played it a lot, so I can see why people are the way they are when it comes down to being like, it's not going to change and all this. And then, you know, I mean, you can look at Ghoul for another example. A lot of people are upset at Ghoul and his ease of play, which is also part of the problem here with Krasue, is it feels like the survivors have to put in more work and the killer doesn't have to put in the same amount of work to get the same kind of result. Once again, it's that skill expression issue. With Krasue, though, there's no head form situation, well, not head form situation, efficiency, where you really have to be efficient with it, because you can just go in and out of it pretty quickly. As well as, even if you don't get out of it really quickly, which it's faster, it's not abysmal like it was on the PTB to go from head form to body in this case, but catching up is extremely easy. So even if you were to go into body form, break a pallet, they run away, you're catching up in a matter of like 2 to 3 seconds. If they don't lose you in pathing or lose you in where they're going in terms of tile sets, boom, you're right back on them. And it isn't like, in most cases, they're not going to lose infection. So it's right back to where you were, right back to the shit being basically the person right back to the frying pan. And I think this is the main reason why she comes off extremely strong, is just the ability to catch up. And right now she has no reason, she has no real weaknesses that she had in the PTB. Now it's just there. Her weaknesses only are that she can be juked. And her intestinal whip isn't... She can be juked with it, but it's way faster than it was in the PTB. So you sort of have a weird situation where it's a different timing. And that's fine, but it's harder to dodge by a pretty good long shot. She's just too fast. She does too many things right now. She has no real weaknesses, and her weaknesses that were weaknesses are not now weaknesses. Thus people are still adjusting. So it could be, of course, that people are also upset about. But I do think that they got rid of a lot of her counterplay with just getting rid of the obstruction. And then also we never really had something directly to have to do with the infection that helps in the now setting of the game. Because we played it during the PTB, which had the anti-slugging and the anti-tunneling. So we played her differently during that time period. Whereas now we don't have those features in the game. So you just have the infection staying on when you probably shouldn't. Which is the next thing I wanted to talk about, infection. The infection being changed to the 4 mushrooms, I think that could be probably fine. But definitely, coming off of hook infected that's problematic in this case, because it allows her to tunnel very easily, as well as it's just one of those where her power essentially now is you're just back up and running. There's no stopping. It's boom, boom, boom. You're back up. Move, move, move. And that seems to be the main problem that everybody is having with her, is that she gets her second hit way too soon. She could just boom, boom, hook person is going to stay infected. And then you essentially can get them off the hook. Someone gets them off the hook, boom, they run around, and if they don't get to a mushroom and you find them again, even if you went for another survivor because of how fast she is, you can go for a whole nother survivor and everything, get to the other side of the map where they may be, and still catch them and hit them again. And even if they had a mushroom, since it's a cleansing thing where it takes time, it isn't instant like plagues or Weskers to get rid of, it's boom, RK. That's it. You're getting hit again. It's one of those where, once again, in the setting for the PTB, it might have worked because we were extremely disincentivized from ever hooking that person again. Now, it's There's no real negative, other than of course people being mad at you. But that's not that doesn't stop people from anything. We do that all the time. You'll piss off people and be like, hey, I wanted to piss people off, or I had a bad time the last match, thus this time I don't really give a fuck. So now personally, I like some of the changes. I think most people do. The mushroom change, I've talked on that multiple times during this. I think that's fine. Having a way for her infection to play out, I think is okay. But it's going to be a balancing act of trying to find the right number amount, I think, for a while. I think 6 was what it was by default. 4 by default isn't bad. I don't think so. Especially since every single time you swap forms, you're creating a mushroom. I think what they might do in terms of a counterbalance to somebody who comes off a hook is probably going to be the notion of you hook a infected survivor, and maybe when they come off, obviously they lose infection and they may spawn a mushroom. I think that might be much, but that might be what they do. In all honesty, is like a quick, extreme sort of way to deal with it. I also think the turn, from what I could see from everybody, seems fine. Her ability to turn a little easier with her headlong flight, I think that's fine. It just allows her to do quicker little whips. The obstruction thing is obviously, I think, the main issue. The turn thing could be, I would have to see the difference of no turn and the obstruction sort of separate. So like if they got rid of the obstruction thing very early on, because the obstruction thing was more of a tech thing that you could get around. Because in the initial stages when you use her intestinal whip, it's the same thing with like Billy, I believe. I said it last time, I think Billy Blight, where you can basically glide across structures of on the map in front of you for a few seconds and land a hit. That's fine, but the way it is now, where you can just do it over pretty much like in anything, no, that's too far. That is like Blight in a sense, where it's just hug tech glide across, but having it more only in the initial stages, which is also I think similar. I want to say similar to demo, but I could be wrong. You get what I'm trying to say. It's the initial stage though, instead of having it be the whole time, so you can basically turn your ass all the way around a goddamn corner and make yourself good at these short ass loops, where I think form efficiency would have came in more at having a person trying to balance when they should be trying to go for just the basic old M1 attack. Overall, I don't think she's going to be too bad of a problem. I do think she's going to be near the top of everything. She's going to be somewhere in this S to A rank area. I don't feel like I am in this game enough to be upset at that. I understand that it's not good for game balance to make another S rank, because it's just one of those where the disparity in between them is something. But overall, I don't hate her. It could be because I haven't played as her, so maybe that's the reason. I also haven't played against her as Survivor, so I don't have the bias right now in my head of being upset and being like, oh my god. But I've seen many matches from so many fucking people, because I've just been hopping streams to videos to streams to videos to stream to videos, and I can see why people are upset. And it's also still one of those things where something's new and finding counterplay is the hard part. But especially since her counterplay that was there is not there now. A lot of the things that were present or that you thought were still going to be in the game are now not there, and she just plays differently. She has strengths that she did not have in the PTB, and really no weaknesses. So that overall, I think, wraps her up into a little bundle right now to be broken. She just has no weaknesses. Her counterplay is not as good as it should be. The infection staying after the hook, and since we're not in the anti-tunneling and anti-slugging sort of, features again that the PTB had, obviously it makes tunneling really easy, as well as just due to her map-wide pressure, it's way too easy to just get them. And even if you don't tunnel and you're just being like a good killer, good job, and you go to the other side of the map and you could chase 2 other people, maybe get a down and hook someone else. If they don't find a mushroom within that time period, you literally can fly all the way back just about and catch them and be completely just hit them again. They may heal, but you could stay in the head form the whole time. And then you don't have to manage your forms. So it just comes down to the whole situation once again, where there's a balancing act in between having her have to manage her forms, having it be easier to deal with the infection, which it's sort of easy to deal with. It's just that you don't get rid of it off hook, which is I think the main issue, because within the PTB that worked, just doesn't work in live due to the other features not coming with it. And then, of course, the buffs to the intestinal whip. I'm okay with the collision issue. The collision thing, that's fine. Her not being able to go through people. But once again, it's like Wraith either way. It's either like Wraith where you can go through them and then you have to try to get ahead of them, or you have to try to get ahead of them entirely. That's completely fine. But it's the little bits of changes. I think the in and out of the form is fine in terms of that number, but it's the little changes to her intestinal whip, I think, itself that are the problem. Because it just allows too much to be done on places where she was not able to do them in the past. Though she is still new, so who knows? This is one of those like still developing situations where we could all be sitting here talking a whole bunch of shit, and then somehow people come up with good amounts of ways to counter her, and we're all just talking out our asses. Sort of like the situation that happened with like Knight and Skull Merchant, where people just got upset at their first forms, and then since then people are still upset at them despite the fact that they're not. Skull Merchant is she's in a situation, but Knight, you can play around Knight far more than people think. Anyways, I think we're going through the growing pains of a new killer being in the game, which is part of a normal cycle of just new shit being added to the game, and people are just pessimistic, partly due to the devs, and not directly them, but the situation that's been going on. People are mainly focusing on past situations, and obviously correlating that to today. And then also, of course, the changes, like I said, are the main thing that makes her feel broken right now. It's making her be in this area. I think by design, she's going to be in this sort of area of S to A, but where she is right now is just too overtuned, and she has too much going for her, and she has the things where her design would seem like you need to manage, and you don't have to manage anymore. So, that's all I really had to say. This is just an excuse really for me to yap my ass off, as you can probably tell. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, click the like button. If you're new to the channel, click that subscribe button. Meet up with me in another one of my videos. If you guys wish to be notified in your email and on YouTube when I upload, click that notification bell. Other than that, hopefully have a great day, and I'll catch you guys next LowTide. And I will actually have a DBD video again soon. I said that last time. It's only been what, like 2 weeks? I think 3. I will actually have one. I plan on. I don't know if I want to play Sadako or Artist. I'm getting the itch to play either one of those two. And I think I might go for a P100, in all honesty. I haven't done it yet. And I feel like it'd be a fun little thing potentially to go after. Versus, I don't know. It's getting good at the game and then also playing around with the things I have. And I think I might play one of those two. After all, I did spend money on them, so hey, you can get my money's worth of anything. Alright, peace out.